Shantideva begins by thinking through the equality of ourselves and others. Philosophically, we could also discuss the insubstantiability and illusory security of a separate self or I. But when it comes to actually breaking down the illusionary barriers between this self and other, self and other people, we work very practically and realistically. Yeah, we have this very spontaneous kind of thing, me here and them there, separate. I mean, without you, I wouldn't be here. Without me, you wouldn't be here sitting looking at me. There's a very strong connection that we don't see, but it's totally depending. What we're doing at the moment is depending on you and on me. And how can we say this does not connect? So the myth of separateness is very kind of flimsy. It's just a myth, right? While it causes us tremendous pain, it is by no means easy to shake it off. The self and other equanimity instructions and exercises address this myth directly. They expose the goals and strategies of self-importance and change the way we see each other. But simply, once you've lived on the streets, you'll look at every homeless person differently from then on. You have experienced it yourself. You know what it means to be on the rock bottom, having to beg for money. This experience automatically breaks down all barriers. Likewise, once we've been in hospital with a serious illness, we know how sometimes people walk in and out of the sick room and don't see you as a person. Once you've experienced this kind of depersonalization, it's difficult to be superficial with someone who is seriously ill. Yeah, very often also where we can't help, we don't want to be so connected to them because it hurts, and we don't like to be not kind of being there for them. Putting yourself in someone else's situation shakes off our indifference. We begin to see that we are all equal in joy and sorrow. Misery is misery and joy is joy. So don't go into emptiness, kind of, oh, but it's all empty. Why should I do something about them? If you understand that, you should not feel your pain also. We feel pain because we have this personalized I, which does not exist, which creates all the pain. And the same is for everybody else. So that I that is merely labeled, we put it in as really existent, and therefore there is this personalized pain. But everybody else feels the same. So even with that confusion, we are the same. So putting yourself in somebody else's situation shakes our indifference. We begin to see that we are all equal in joy and sorrow. Yeah. Understanding the sameness of our joys and sorrows broadens our horizon somehow. From then on, it's not as easy as it used to be to stay stuck in egocentric thinking. Okay? So it doesn't mean, why we don't like to look at the pain of others, unless it's your profession, as a psychologist or as a doctor or whatever, then you do. You look at the pain of others because you need to be able to figure out if you can help. But we don't like it to look at the suffering because it feels painful not to be able to do anything. So we have to become really humble and let go of, not even the Buddha can kind of get everybody out of samsara. So what about me? But we can try, and we can be there, and we can be friendly. That's very difficult. When you're able to help, it's so joyful to be with somebody that needs help. When you can't help, it's painful. Yeah? But we can use that pain to understand samsara, wanting to get out of it, needing to become a Buddha, and all of this. And it's with somebody who has a lot of pain. What's the most healing, what I have found, is when we agree with them. Yes, this kind of situation is really shit. Yeah. And that's it. No need to give good advice or whatever, So, don't try to make it feel better for them. It's shit. That's it. And you know how it feels. And you can say, I wish I could help, but I don't know how. Maybe the person knows how. And she could say, that's what somebody said, her sister was sick with cancer. And she's a bit cynical, and she's kind of very sharp also. And she said, you know, all these people came and were concerned about the health of my sister, but nobody ever asked, shall I take the children? Can I clean the apartment? Can I do this or this or that? But only, how is she? You know, but nobody really saying, I wish I could help. How can I help? And then be ready to help. Don't just think, this is the Swiss way, by the way. You know, you offer your help, but you hope that nobody wants it. So you look very, very noble and very compassionate. But then when it comes down to actually doing it, it's like, well, maybe tomorrow, but today, I'm sorry, I don't have time. Okay, verse 91. Although there are many different parts and aspects, such as the hands, as a body that is to be protected, they are one. Likewise, all the different sentient beings in their pleasure and their pain have a wish to be happy. This is the same, that is the same as mine. So that's very logical, isn't it? If your foot has a thorn, your hand is not saying, oh, come on, you know, why should I help you because... Is it something? Why should I help you because I'm not the foot, you never do anything for me. Aha, oh, thank you. You never do anything for me, and like this. Because, now, of course, hand and foot, we think they cannot think. But if they could, maybe they would do like this. You know, if they could think, they would have this distinction. Oh, I'm not going to help you. Why should I help you? You smell bad. You never do anything for me like this. But like this, if the hand helps the foot, there will be no infection, and the infection will not spread all throughout the body, where then the hand also feels the infection, right? So that's how we should start to think in society.
This is what Rousseau said.
Huh?
Rousseau, the philosopher in France, I think it's 18th century, Rousseau. He said, like, the society is like a body. When you have a thorn or something and your little finger, it gonna, all your mind, all your thing, it's all around this little finger. And so when you have in society some people who are in poorness or disturbed, the whole society is actually suffering from it.
Okay. Yeah, it maybe goes a little bit different, but it's still the same, that he would say, don't just concentrate on the little finger, but be concerned about the whole body. Mm-hmm. Also take care of the whole body. That's what you do naturally. If you're hungry, you still eat, even if you have pain in your little finger. But here's more like, you know, the hand that is not the cause for the suffering of the foot goes and helps the foot, because it understands it's one wholeness. So then, now with this text, what makes it sometimes a bit more complicated or difficult to understand, because he argues with himself. So don't forget, Shantideva is just talking to himself. He's not talking to us, right? I mean, he's not talking. Yeah, he's talking to himself, and we can use it as ourselves. So we ourselves also, sometimes we go into these arguments. We say, you know, the generous mind wants to give a lot. Then the other mind comes and says, oh, are you sure? Maybe, you know, maybe not so much, and blah, 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 or maybe more, or whatever. Yeah. So we also have these conversations.
Because I'm afraid that you'll fall backwards.
No, there's something here.
Oh, okay.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Okay, I can go. Okay, see, so that's good compassion, but not based on seeing directly. So this ego says, you know, he warns his wise mind and says, hey, come on. With your arguments here, I have a counter argument. So here's one counter argument that comes and says, but my pain does not in fact afflict or cause discomfort to another's body. Though clinging to my I, the suffering is mine, and being mine is very hard to bear. So here it says, the suffering that I experience does not cause any harm to others, but that suffering is mine because of my conceiving of myself as I, thereby it becomes unbearable. So he says, the suffering, first one, there's the argument, but you know, why should I be concerned about other people's suffering, because they're not concerned about my suffering either. It does not harm them, it doesn't do anything. And then he says, but the suffering is yours or is mine because you conceive of an I, that is self-existent, and then it becomes unbearable. See, if we would really understand the suffering of all the others, my suffering would be so tiny. Why? It would be like nothing. And very often we see it happen when, I complain about something, maybe it's even pain, but then somebody comes who has bigger pain, my pain disappears. It goes. It's all relative. I was in Dharamsala at one point with somebody, I don't forget that moment, with somebody who was depressed, and I was trying to cheer her up and all this. Knock on the door. There's one worker who came in who had, with his axe, kind of slashed across the... I tell you, both of us, we forgot about the depression, called the taxi down to the hospital with this bleeding kind of thing. Yeah, this is mirror neurons. You haven't seen it. Just telling the story, we feel the pain of others. We say we don't feel the pain of others, but we do, because we understand they have the same body as I. But her depression, finished. And we were so happy that they, brought him down to the hospital. They started to sew it up, and he was grateful that we had helped him. We paid for the bill and blah blah. Depression finished. So I can't cut somebody's leg every time somebody is depressed. That's not possible. We cannot do this, but we can think of others. And this also, don't tell others. We're very ready to tell others these things, when they complain about what I think is small. Nothing is small. In their mind, it's big. So therefore it is big. And we can see the clinging to the I. The more clinging to the I, the bigger the pain becomes. The more problems that person has. Right? And so the more they're open and concerned about others, they don't care so much about their own suffering. So we're very ready to say that somebody, but look at all the others, or don't tell others, that's heartless. That means that's not compassion. Trying to show them another view. Yeah. But you have to train to tell that to yourself when you are going to, life is so difficult and blah, blah, blah. And then the best thought is, it could be much worse. Instead of, it should be better. And then we have to be realistic in what way it could be worse. And then we start to be more even, more open, and then we deal with the situation. It doesn't mean you can't react anymore, because also I was giving a talk to young soldiers who thought that Buddhism is all about wanting nothing. So I said, no, you want things very much, but you want things that are beneficial to many beings. It's not about... And, having pleasure, it's okay. As long as you're not attached to it, that's the secret. That you're not attached to it. It comes, wonderful, goes, no big deal. Okay, so that's that one. But when your ego is gone, and this is why, there's these stories about a Sangha, and Shantideva, I think also Shantideva gave his eye, or Aryadeva maybe gave his eye. One gave his arm. So there's these stories from these sages who had most probably realized emptiness. There's a Sangha meditating in a cave. He wants to have a direct perception of Maitreya, right? So he meditates on loving kindness. Again and again and again and again. After 4 years or 3 years, I don't know, no result. He comes out, he said, it's not working. So he sees, what does he? He sees water that fell onto a stone and it made a hole. And he thought, if soft water like this, by continuously falling on stone, can make a hole, maybe I should go back in. Then he went back in, another 6 years, nothing happened. And he came out, and then he was like a man who cut from a big sheet of iron, he cut very thin needles. And he thought, if he has the patience to do that, okay, I go back in. Then again, nothing happened. And they thought, okay, this definitely is not working. I've had it. I have no direct experience or appearance of Maitreya. Even I'm meditating on loving kindness for all these years. I give up. So he went out and he saw a dog that was on her back full of maggots, right? So a wound. But he had compassion for the dog and the maggots. So he thought, if I take the maggots away, they will die of hunger. So he cut a piece of his leg. So he was able to do that because of having realized emptiness and having real compassion for these maggots, right? We should not do this. We can give away money, clothes, food, vegetables, things like that. Don't give away your body yet. Yeah. The other one was one gave his eye. I can't remember who. Just took it out and here it is. And one gave his arm. You know, somebody, actually it was a spirit who was very malicious and wanted to make him lose bodhicitta. So he said, can I have your arm? So he cut his right arm, but he had to give it with his left hand, right? So, because you cannot give your right arm with your right arm. So he said, in India it's total taboo to give anything with your left hand, because you clean your bottom with your left hand with water when you make caca. So this spirit said, yeah, no, thank you, I don't want it, because you gave it to me with your left hand, and he didn't lose his bodhicitta. So maybe it was Shantideva, I can't remember, it was somebody. One of these 17 scholars of Nalanda. So we can see it's possible to do. I think also when self-cherishing is, the will to survive is very strong, because there was one guy who was a climber who was locked in the rock with his arm, and he cut his arm off. If he would have really felt the pain, as if I would feel the pain when somebody cuts off my arm, I would not have continued. But he continued, and so it is, the mind is much stronger than we think with these pain things. Yeah, depends how we approach it. So then, 93, and other beings' pain I do not feel, and yet because I take them for my own, their suffering is likewise hard to bear. So the first two lines, sometimes I'm also not very clear on this, but I think the first 2 lines, he says, why should I care about them? It's not my pain. But if I take it for my own, their suffering is likewise hard to bear. So then I'm not just being concerned about my own, but I'm also concerned about their suffering. So that's frightening. I mean, that's very frightening if if you don't have the skills to deal with it, if you haven't realized emptiness. So very often the question comes, well, why don't we study emptiness first, and then we can go on about this bodhicitta, giving body, exchanging oneself and all others. But you need a lot of merit in order to realize emptiness directly, a lot of positive karma. How do I create positive karma? By being generous, by being ethical, by developing loving kindness and compassion and all this. That's why. Also, if we would just talk about emptiness very quickly, I think we will fall into nihilism. And then we still wouldn't get the whole thing. Yeah. So that's why emptiness in general comes at the end. But it's said in the text, for some who have very, very sharp capacities, it's okay to think about ultimate bodhicitta, like about emptiness first. So you have to see where you are at. Yeah. So here it just says, pain is pain, suffering is suffering. Why only be concerned about my own? Since we are connected, like the hand who helps the foot goes down and helps the foot. So therefore, I'll dispel the pain of others, for it is simply pain just like my own. And others I will aid and benefit, for they are living beings just like me. Hence I should dispel the misery of others, because it is suffering just like my own. That's 94, so if you can. And I should benefit others because they're sentient beings just like myself. He takes a decision. Okay? So since I and others, beings both in wanting happiness, are equal and alike, what difference is there to distinguish us? That I shall strive to have my bliss alone. When both myself and others are similar in what we wish to be happy, what is so special about me? Why do I strive for my happiness alone? This is such a good reflection, I tell you, to do. We feel so special all the time. Especially bad, especially good, especially middle, but special anyway. Separate from others. And this is creating all the problems. Because we need to prove that we're special, but we're not. you know? And the more special you want to be, the unhappier you get, because there is always somebody coming along who will be more special than you are. If you want to be special in bodhicitta and you really train this, your needing to be special disappears. Your arrogance disappears. Your fear of not being good enough disappears, because what more noble things can you do than develop bodhicitta, train in it, even if you're not there yet? What kind of, in what way can you be of more benefit than wanting to become a Buddha? There is no other way. So you don't need to become arrogant about this, and you probably won't, because you're practicing these things that give you positive karma to feel more closer to your nature, being more spacious and more open and all this. But if you want to be the best climber, I mean, I've been doing these things. You're top, you're waiting for something special to happen, nothing happens. You have to come down again, and you're already planning your next trip. This is what shows us with these things. It cannot be satisfying. Why would I have to plan the next trip? And if then, as you get older, I mean, the last mountain I didn't climb, it's just walking up, it's Mount Sinai, but I think I was there 2 hours before all the others, and that was the last one because I already had bad knees, and then I ran down almost, jumping from one rock to the other, and people were looking at me. It was Netta and Tami and Jaffa they were looking at me like this, and it was so much joy, and it was so much pleasure, but I knew this would be the last time because my knees were already so bad. Then there's fear. There is joy while you're doing it, but then there's a fear. Then I needed about 7 painkillers the next few days to get rid of the pain, because I've been behaving so stupidly. As a monk, imagine, as an aspiring bodhisattva, the pleasure of being in the rocks and knowing how to jump from one to the other, and it all came back. This is why, attachment. I haven't done it for many years. I hadn't been in the mountains like this just for fun for many years. I only looked at them. I thought it had finished, but being there, I really felt this kind of, wow, I'm so great. Look at all these others who wanted to come up with a camel or something like that. Stupid, but yeah, that's what one is doing. So, being special in whatever, it's like always somebody, either you decline in your specialness, or somebody else comes along and is better than you. So there's always the fear. And then this having to prove, that you're special, you become so boring to other people. Also having to prove that you're especially bad is so boring, because you're not. I can find you, and I should look at somebody, because otherwise you take it personally. I can find you many people who are much worse than you are, so that you're not taking it personally. Okay. Yeah, it's just perspective. So what he is starting to do now, he's starting to take the perspective of the other, pretty much throughout all the rest of the chapter, and it's so interesting. He takes on the role of somebody that I see normally, but I take on that role. And especially when it comes to exchanging self for others, it's so interesting, it's so skillful, that you will have to try it out. So then, where were we? And what was myself and that is similar in that we don't wish to suffer. What is so special about me? Yeah, this feeling, what is it? Is problem? Too hot? No. Too cold?
No, it's a great weather.
Special?
Very special.
Yeah, we in half an hour we make a break. Or I said with the short break, didn't I? I forgot to say. Are you still okay? Half an hour, can you endure? Because it says a short break in between. I forgot about the break. Okay. But anyway, do a few more verses, because we have, many verses to do. Yeah, if you absolutely need to go to toilet, then you can, but if you can hold it for another half hour, then, or maybe we do 15, 20 minutes. Okay, that kind of the special thing. Just to go, we have this seems innate, this is innate grasping at the self. my happiness is more important than somebody else's happiness. We have that. It's innate. It's not natural because it's not part of the nature of the mind, but it's part of the kind of innate, we are born with that, ignorance of separating ourselves from others. My happiness is more important than others, and it seems normal, natural.
This I did not say. It's not the nature of the mind,
No.
but we come with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how?
Yeah. But a mental factor.
Socialization
Mental factor of ignorance. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is mind, but it's not the nature of the mind. It's a mental factor. We have positive mental factor, negative mental factors. Negatives, we can eliminate them. Yeah. The nature of the body is suffering, so we can never make the body 100% healthy. Impossible. That it doesn't need anything to survive.
Yeah.
But the mind can, because the nature of the mind is pure. And these things are added to the nature of the mind. Okay? Then again, but why should I... So, when both myself and others are similar in that we do not wish to suffer, what is so special about me? Why do I protect myself and others? So your task is to find good reasons why your happiness is more important than somebody else's happiness. You go into meditation, reflection, you try to find out, and you will not find anything. Or can you give me a reason why your happiness is more important than mine, for example? Yes, Yetsa?
I don't know if it's more important, but to help someone, like you say in the airplane, first put your own mask
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
So you have to be in a situation that
Yeah.
can help someone not to
Sure, yeah. But, if you find a reason, my happiness is more important than yours because I want to become a Buddha, but she also wants to become a Buddha.
be.
Yeah, and that's usually, again, we are very clever at finding very special occasions. I'm talking about daily life. Daily life, this innate, you come into the bus, you feel the seat is half broken. What do? Find another one. With no thought, but somebody will have to sit on this seat. Why not me? No thought. We could think like that. Somebody will have to sit it. I take this seat voluntarily because the bus will be full. Yeah? And then I can, but it's not even thinking, I want a better seat because I have to go to work and then I feel tired because the journey was so uncomfortable. Nothing. It's, I don't want this seat. And not thinking about others. This is what it's been talked about, not about other things. Of course, we have to take care. Right at the end of this chapter, I hope we will get there by tomorrow evening, right at the end of this chapter, he says, he kind of vilifies the body, that it's not a good thing and all this, and he says, but take good care of it. He always says, take good care of yourself. And don't forget, this bodhicitta, right? So, at the beginning, we learn to take good care of ourselves by thinking about karma, by thinking about negative emotions and all this. But here it's already others, right? It's already others. And if you bring that argument always in, but I'm first, I'm this, I'm that, because I want to become a Buddha, we don't really get it, the bodhicitta part. We don't really get it, yeah. But then, of course, in daily life, you have to see, what do I do with this? And don't forget, it's attitude. If we don't train the mind in these attitudes and we try to do it with body and speech, we will fail. So we meditate, we think, we read these verses again and again and again and again, and we think, this is how I have to think. And then action will naturally follow. You can, from 1 second to the other, you can be from a very self-concerned person, just being concerned about your happiness, to somebody who is very naturally including somebody else when you find out that you're pregnant. And you know that this is another being. Yeah? But your attitude changes very naturally, biologically probably, for most of them. Unfortunately, there is some others who don't have these feelings, but again, they're very rare. Yeah? You don't need arguments and all this. Something changes, there's another one. So you expand your eye. And what we want to do is expanding the eye towards all sentient beings. And the same thing with your children. They grow up. You can't help them. You leave them alone. But you're still very much concerned about them. And you like to help. I mean, I have, friends, mothers who their son is